Our inspirational reading and address will be presented by Bonnie Crosier. Bonnie is the president and founder of the SCoA. Her passion is with education and working with those who want to explore their spirituality journey by searching and getting curious about life. As a retired chaplain, she brings a greater understanding of spiritual care for her ministry. A warm Harmony Harbor to Bonnie.
I want to read you a short story. It's called A Limit of Your Kindness, and the author is unknown. Recently, Steve had a car accident, so he put his car in the garage to carry out the repair work. Since he had to go about his daily job, he decided that until the car is ready, he will travel by metro train. So one day he noticed a homeless guy at the train station at night. He felt pity on him, so he gave him some pocket change from his pocket. The homeless guy thanked. The next day, again, he noticed the homeless guy was at the same place. This time, Steve thought to give him something to eat, so at least he went outside the station and brought him a meal. The homeless guy thanked him for his kindness, but Steve got curious and asked him, "How did you get to this point?" The homeless man looked up at him with a smile and said, "By showing love." Steve didn't understand it, so he asked him, "What do you mean by that?" The homeless guy replied that throughout my life, I made sure that everyone was happy, no matter what was going right or wrong in my life. I always helped someone. And Steve asked him, "Do you regret it?" To which the homeless man replied, "No. It just hurts my soul that the very people I gave the shirt off my back to wouldn't give me a sleeve of that same shirt when I was in need. Son, it's better to build your house and invite someone in for shelter than for you to hand your bricks while you're building yours. Because one day you're going to turn around and look at the spot where you had planted or where you had planned to build your house, and it'll be an empty lot. And then you are the one looking for bricks." Steve understood what the homeless guy meant and thanked him for his advice. So the moral of the story is helping others is not a bad thing at all. But sometimes while we're helping others, we forget about our own problems and needs. And, we must remember that sometimes sharing is better than giving things away. You can do a lot more by being in a strong position instead of bringing yourself to a weaker situation. So, one of the things I've tried to do all of my life is to be of service to others. I grew up in a house that lived on the premise that neighbor helps neighbor. And if a farmer gets behind in harvesting the fields, the other farmers would help out. A family has a baby or maybe an illness in the house, the neighbor ladies would cook, clean, do laundry, whatever it took to help that neighbor out. And it was a sweet system for many years. One day I overheard my mom talking to another lady on the phone, and the process seemed to start to change. The conversation seemed to be about which neighbor ladies weren't doing their equal work, and maybe the system was starting to break down. It appeared that the neighbor ladies were starting to keep score. As I got older and started college, I noticed that the farmers weren't helping each other as much in the fields as they used to do. So here too, it seemed the farmers were keeping track of who was paying it forward. And as I read this story, the ending kind of became personal to me when the man said, "It's better to build your own house and invite someone in for shelter Then to hand them all of your bricks while you are building yours, because one day you're going to turn around and look at the spot where you had planned to build your house, and it's going to be an empty lot, and you're going to be the one looking for bricks. As prices would go up with fuel and fertilizer and seed and all of that different things, I've seen where, they just weren't so generous with their resources as they were in the past. And I'd like to think that there would be some sort of balance that could be done. While I feel it's still important to help others, I've also understood the importance of making sure one helps themselves as well. Kind of like self wellness or self help. One of the most rewarding feelings is helping others. The selfless act of doing things for others without recognition is truly one of the highest acts of service. Besides, it falls in line with the golden rule. So, do people really want to have people treat them as they wish to be treated? The Dalai Lama was once quoted by saying, "If you be happy, practice compassion. If you want to be happy yourself, practice compassion." So, if compassion is an important part of happiness, how does one practice unconditional compassion? So, it may not be as easy as you think. Unconditional compassion means to have no judgment, no preconceived notions in any situation. And I think that it has something to do with the golden rule. Do people expect others to treat them as they wish to be treated without leading by example? Maybe, or maybe not. How can one be treated with respect and kindness when they themselves do not practice what they expect? Let's take a look at a possible hypothetical situation. There are two teenage boys who seem to be over attentive to what goes on in the neighborhood. The older people in the neighborhood are beginning to wonder why these two are so concerned with people in their homes. Instead of asking the boys about their concerns, the word in the neighborhood is all about how these boys seem to be setting up something sinister. Well, on the surface, they could be up to something. Who knows until somebody checks it out? Maybe if they got to know the boys, they'd understand better what's going on. Maybe if they treated the boys with kindness and respect, they would get the same in return, and the gossip in the neighborhood wouldn't be filled with possible falsehoods. So let's add another element to the story. One neighbor consistently waves at the boys when she sees them, and now when they see her first, they wave first. She heard the chatter in the neighborhood and was curious if there was any truth to the possible rumor or story. So one day, she stopped and introduced herself to the boys. And in their conversation, she found out that the boys had surely been scoping out the neighborhood, if you will, but to see who may need help mowing for the summer or maybe yard work. They were looking at who was home during the day, who worked, who was at school, etc. They didn't want to waste their time going door to door if people wouldn't be home or if they were doing their outdoor work by themselves. They wanted to make extra money for the summer doing yard work in the neighborhood. So after that news circulated in the neighborhood, the boy worked for the summer. Turned out that they were both very good at what they were doing and really had a knack for mowing and yard work and landscaping. Their prices were very reasonable, and the yards they maintained were some of the best looking yards in the neighborhood. They also had work for the winter removing snow from driveways. So I need to come clean. Yeah, it's a true story. So finding the facts to lead to the understanding and most importantly, the truth is vital. Preconceived thoughts of another person can really lead to misinformation, which can possibly cause fear. So when should kindness be limited? And yes, I am going to say there are times when kindness should be limited. When people take advantage of our own kindness, it depletes our resources. And that can be in many forms, like physical resources, our personal health and space, and even our emotional well being. In other words, you have now been used as the proverbial, there we go, doormat. There might be times when people overstep our personal boundaries. There could be times when we're caught off guard and startled and fearful of present situations. And then there's times when someone rejects our kindness. And one may ask, why would somebody reject kindness? Well, it could be a couple of things. Could be some trauma that was made to feel them or made them feel that they didn't deserve any acts of kindness. Or another reason could be that they were punishing themselves for something they did in their past, didn't deserve it. So what happens if there's no kindness for the giver and the receiver? If someone experiences a life with no kindness or very little kindness, that person would experience a lonely life filled with anger, stress, disease, desolation. Their life expectancy would probably be very low also. As humans, kindness is vital for our survival. There comes times in our lives when we need the help of others, and in some cases, to thrive and maybe continue to survive. Some may think kindness is a sign of weakness when actually it's a sign of strength and courage. For some, it's stepping out of their comfort zone to be kind to another, no matter how they look or what they may have said. The Mayo Clinic Health System writes in their article on the art of kindness to be kind to yourself. When sharing kindness, it's not just how you treat other people, it's also about how you extend those same behaviors and intentions upon yourself. I believe you can be kinder in your own self talk and practice gratitude. People are good at verbally beating themselves up, which does not work as a pep talk. Rather, negativity often causes you to unravel and may even create a vicious cycle of regularly getting down on yourself. You wouldn't want to talk to your neighbor the same way that you speak to yourself. That is what I call the good neighbor policy, which can be helpful. If you wouldn't say it to your neighbor, don't say it to yourself. Start your day with this question: how am I going to practice kindness for today? For a homework assignment, I have invited some patients to pay attention to periodically documenting their evidence of kindness to others and especially to themselves during the day. This positive focus is like planting positive seeds in your mind and in your mind's garden. Where the focus goes, energy flows. A young client recently asked if I wanted them to get on the ark. When I asked what that meant, the client replied, acts of random kindness. How about you? Are you willing to get on the ark? The article ends with, finally, I'd like to leave you Lama. Be kind whenever possible. It is always possible. Well, apparently they like what the Dalai Lama has to say too. Maybe Today is the day that we can all take a closer look and see what can be changed to enhance our quality of life by kindness. Remember, it's important to be helpful, but to not be a doormat. I challenge you to keep your random act of kindness gestures in your journal. How do you feel? How has your life changed for the better? Most importantly, how many acts of kindness do you do for yourself in a day, a week, a month? You see, if you really want to have the golden rule work in your favor, you need to lead by example and truly treat others how you wish to be treated. So, as I close today, I ask you, are you willing to get on the ark? Thank you for allowing me to serve you and to serve Spirit.